Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about something that I know a lot of you have been asking about, unplanned weight loss.
Yeah.
We're going to be focusing on how this affects older adults. We've got some really great information from the Mayo Clinic and the HealthWise knowledge base.
Great resources.
And we're going to be pulling out those practical takeaways that you can use in your everyday life.
Absolutely.
You know, one of the things that really surprised me from the Mayo Clinic was that losing even just 5% of your body weight
Mm.
over 6 to 12 months, even if you're not trying to lose weight, can be a sign that you need to see a doctor,
Yeah.
especially if you're an older adult.
Really important point. And it's something that's often overlooked because we associate weight loss with, a positive thing,
Yeah,
people trying to lose weight. But, in this case, it's weight loss that is unplanned, unintentional.
5%.
And that's where the concern comes in.
That seems like such a small amount.
Yeah,
I bet a lot of people don't even realize that.
exactly.
So let's start by defining unplanned weight loss.
Sure.
What exactly are we talking about?
So HealthWise defines it as losing weight without trying.
Okay,
So it's not about dieting or hitting the gym.
gotcha.
It's weight that is coming off despite your normal habits.
Okay.
And there's a whole list of potential causes that HealthWise outlines, and some are more relevant to older adults than others.
Yeah, and they list quite a few. Some that jumped out at me were overactive thyroid, long-term infections, difficulty eating,
Yeah,
digestive issues, depression even,
absolutely.
diabetes, COPD, cancer, memory problems like dementia.
And, this is where it's really important to understand how aging plays a role. Because as we get older, even small changes in weight can be a bigger deal than they would be for someone younger.
Yeah, is that because our bodies just become more sensitive as we age?
Exactly. Our metabolism tends to slow down, we lose some muscle mass, and our bodies are just not as resilient as they used to be. So it's kind of like, an older car. It might need more frequent tune-ups to keep running smoothly.
I like that analogy. So even small fluctuations could be a sign that something is off?
Exactly.
Let's go back to that 5% rule.
Okay.
Can you explain why that's such a critical benchmark, especially for older adults?
So think of it as a kind of early warning system. If you weigh, say, 160 pounds, 5% is only 8 pounds,
Right.
which can easily go unnoticed. But by flagging it early on, doctors can start investigating
Okay.
and potentially catch issues before they become more serious.
So if you're an older adult, or if you're caring for an older adult, even if it's just a few pounds, don't ignore it.
Exactly.
What happens if you do go to the doctor?
Yeah.
What can you expect?
Well, the Mayo Clinic suggests that doctors take a very thorough approach.
Okay.
So they'll want to get a complete history, everything from your current symptoms and the medications you're taking to recent changes in your appetite, taste, or smell.
And they might check to make sure that you're up to date on cancer screenings.
Absolutely.
Yeah, colonoscopies or mammograms.
All of these pieces kind of help create this more complete picture. And the key here is open communication.
Okay.
The more information you give your doctor, the better they can figure out what's causing the weight loss.
Okay, so even if it seems like TMI, don't hold back.
Exactly.
Now, do doctors usually run a lot of tests when someone says that they've had unplanned weight loss?
Not always. Blood and urine tests are often the first step, according to the Mayo Clinic. They can help rule out some of the more common culprits
Okay.
and then guide further testing if needed. And sometimes, especially if those initial tests are normal, the best course of action is watchful waiting.
Watchful waiting. What is that?
Yeah, so essentially it means monitoring the situation closely for a few months, seeing if there are any changes in weight or symptoms,
Okay.
and then reassessing.
So it's not always this rush to a diagnosis.
No,
Sometimes it's about being strategic and watching what happens.
exactly.
What about if you do need to gain weight? What's the best way to do that safely, especially for older adults?
Well, HealthWise has some great tips for this. They really emphasize the importance of working with healthcare professionals,
Okay.
like doctors and registered dietitians, to create a plan that is tailored to your individual needs.
Because just eating more might not be the right answer.
Right. And especially for older adults, there might be other things to consider, like dental problems or medication side effects, or even just changes in taste that can make it harder to get enough calories.
HealthWise also says to be careful about those expensive supplements that promise quick weight gain.
Absolutely. They recommend focusing on nutritious, calorie-rich foods instead.
Okay.
Think cheese, dried fruits, nuts,
Those sound pretty good to me.
granola bars, peanut butter. All of these are packed with nutrients and flavor.
So it sounds like the key is to avoid those quick fixes and aim for gradual changes that you can sustain over time.
Exactly, and to work with healthcare professionals who can help you navigate those changes safely and effectively.
Great advice. This has been such a great conversation, but I feel like we've only just scratched the surface. We'll be back after a quick break to explore even more about unplanned weight loss and what you can do about it. Stay with us.
Sounds good. One thing that really stands out to me from both of these sources is that addressing unplanned weight loss, it's not really a solo mission.
Right.
It really takes a team approach.
It's not just like taking a pill and everything's better. You need a strategy.
Exactly.
So who all might be on this team besides a doctor?
Well, it depends on the person and the underlying cause.
Sure.
But it could include a registered dietitian to help with meal planning,
Okay.
maybe a therapist if there are mental health concerns, or even other specialists depending on the specific conditions involved.
So it's really about having a whole support system in place.
Exactly.
And I would imagine this is even more crucial for older adults because their healthcare needs can be more complex.
Absolutely. They might be dealing with multiple health issues.
Right?
And their medications can interact in ways that younger people might not experience.
It's like a puzzle where all the pieces are connected.
Exactly.
So it's not just about treating the weight loss itself, but looking at the whole person and their overall health.
Absolutely.
Which brings us back to that idea of open communication with your healthcare team.
Yes.
You got to speak up.
Couldn't agree more. Advocate for yourself or your loved one.
Yeah.
Ask questions.
Right.
Don't be afraid to get a second opinion.
I think sometimes, especially as we get older, we hesitate to bother the doctor.
Right.
Or we might be a little embarrassed to bring up certain things.
I understand. But it's important to remember that these healthcare professionals are there to help.
Yeah.
They've seen and heard it all.
Right.
Their goal is to help you feel your best.
And they can only do that if they have all the information.
Exactly.
So no holding back.
Exactly. Even if it seems trivial, tell them everything.
We talked about watchful waiting earlier.
Yeah.
Can we dig into that a little bit more?
Sure.
What does that actually look like?
So instead of immediately ordering a bunch of tests,
Okay.
the doctor might suggest just monitoring the situation for a few months.
Okay.
So they're basically looking for changes in weight,
Right.
see if any new symptoms pop up.
So it's a way to avoid unnecessary interventions.
Exactly.
Give the body a chance to maybe correct itself.
Exactly. But if things don't improve or if new symptoms develop, then further investigation is definitely needed.
Makes sense. So in those cases, what kinds of tests might the doctor order?
Well, again, it really depends on the individual.
Uh-huh.
Their symptoms, medical history, those kinds of things. But it could range from imaging scans like X-rays or CT scans or MRIs to more specialized blood tests.
So there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. Every case is unique.
Huh.
And that's why it's so important to have a doctor you trust who listens to you and takes a personalized approach to your care.
Let's talk about what happens when you do need to gain weight. We touched on this briefly before,
Yeah.
but I think it deserves a deeper dive, especially for older adults.
Yeah, it's not always as simple as just eating more, especially as we age.
Right. Like I was saying before, older adults might have dental problems that make it hard to chew, or they just might not have much of an appetite because of medication side effects.
Exactly. And as we get older, our metabolism slows down,
Right.
so we need fewer calories overall. It's a balancing act.
So it's about making every calorie count,
Yes.
focusing on foods that are packed with nutrients.
Exactly. And this is where a registered dietitian can be really helpful. They can create a meal plan that meets your specific needs and preferences
Okay.
and make sure you're getting the nutrients you need without overdoing it on the calories.
They can also help identify any nutrient deficiencies
Yes, absolutely.
and suggest ways to address those. Now, HealthWise specifically warns against those expensive supplements that are marketed for weight gain.
Yes, they do.
Why is that?
Well, first of all, there's no quick fix when it comes to healthy weight gain.
Yeah.
It takes time and consistent effort. And second, a lot of these supplements aren't regulated by the FDA.
Right.
So there's no guarantee that they're safe or effective.
And they can be expensive.
Exactly. Which can be a real barrier for people living on a fixed income.
So what are some healthier options that won't break the bank?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, focusing on calorie-rich, nutrient-rich foods is key.
Okay.
Things like nuts and seeds, avocados, full-fat dairy products,
Okay.
lean protein.
And don't forget about the importance of regular meals and snacks.
Absolutely.
Skipping meals can actually backfire and make you overeat later.
And stay hydrated.
Yes.
Sometimes people mistake thirst for hunger.
Good point. What about exercise?
Oh, absolutely.
Does that have a role in healthy weight gain?
Yes, because while it does burn calories, it also helps build muscle mass.
Okay.
which can boost your metabolism and make it easier to gain weight in a healthy way.
And of course, exercise has so many other benefits,
Oh, tons.
especially for older adults,
Yeah,
like improving balance and strength,
right.
overall well-being.
Exactly. Find an activity you enjoy and try to do it a few times a week.
Okay?
Even a little bit can go a long way.
I feel like we've covered so much ground today.
We have.
But it's important to remember that this is just a starting point.
It is.
Every individual is different.
Yes.
And it's really important to work with your healthcare providers to figure out the best approach for you.
I agree.
But I think we've given our listeners a really good foundation for understanding unplanned weight loss,
I think so too.
especially as it relates to older adults and some steps they can take to address it.
And I hope we've empowered them to advocate for themselves and seek the support they need.
You know, we focus a lot on the medical side of things,
Yeah,
but I think it's also important to acknowledge the emotional impact
absolutely.
that unplanned weight loss can have,
Yeah.
especially for older adults.
It can be very isolating
Yeah.
and distressing.
People might become self-conscious about their appearance,
Mm-hmm.
worry about what others are thinking.
And if the weight loss is due to a serious illness, it can be incredibly scary.
So it's really important to reach out for support,
Absolutely.
whether that's from family or friends or a support group, a therapist.
Couldn't agree more. No one should have to go through this alone.
And remember, you're not a burden. It's okay to ask for help when you need it.
And speaking of help, there are lots of resources available online and in your community.
Right.
The National Institute on Aging has a wealth of information on healthy aging.
And many senior centers offer nutrition counseling and exercise classes that are geared towards older adults.
So there are definitely options out there.
This has been such a great conversation,
It really has.
and I feel like we've really dug deep into this complex topic.
We have.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
While we've talked about the potential causes and consequences of unplanned weight loss, it's important to remember that our bodies are always changing.
That's true.
And what's normal for one person might not be normal for another.
Exactly.
So don't compare yourself to others.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to your body.
Yes.
Pay attention to any changes.
Good advice.
And don't hesitate to reach out for help when you need it.
And remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about your body and how to take care of it, the better equipped you'll be to live a long and healthy life.
That's a great message to end on. Thank you so much for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time. You know, before we wrap up, I keep thinking about something you said earlier about unplanned weight loss being a team effort.
Yeah.
And I was wondering about the role of caregivers in all this.
It's a really important role, especially for older adults who may not be aware of the changes in their bodies.
Right.
Or might be hesitant to speak up. Caregivers can be those eyes and ears.
So it's not just about what the older adult is saying, but also what the caregiver's observing.
Exactly. Sometimes the scale isn't the first clue. You know, caregivers might notice clothes fitting looser or needing to tighten their belts more.
Yeah.
Little things like that.
It's easy to overlook stuff like that.
Yeah.
What are some other signs that caregivers should be looking out for?
Pay attention to their eating habits. Are they eating less than usual? Are they skipping meals?
Okay.
Are they maybe just picking at their food or choosing less healthy options?
So it's not just about how much they're eating, but also what they're eating
Absolutely.
and how they're feeling about eating in general.
Exactly. And also keep an eye on their energy levels. Are
Yeah.
they more tired than usual? Weaker?
Hmm.
Because that could be a sign of weight loss as well.
It's about connecting the dots.
Yes.
Noticing the patterns.
Exactly.
Trusting your gut if something seems off.
Exactly.
So what's the best approach if a caregiver is concerned about unplanned weight loss?
Don't hesitate to start a conversation. Just a simple, how are you feeling?
Okay.
Is anything bothering you?
Yeah.
Sometimes just talking about it can help uncover things.
Okay.
Things they might not even realize are a problem.
And if they do raise any concerns,
Yeah,
don't be afraid to reach out to the doctor.
absolutely. Early detection is really important,
Okay.
especially with weight loss in older adults.
So to wrap up our deep dive today, unplanned weight loss, especially in older adults, it's a sign to look into it.
Yeah.
Don't ignore it.
That 5% rule is a good guideline to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But it's not the only thing to consider.
And open communication with healthcare providers is key.
Yes, it is.
Don't hold back any information.
Even if it seems small.
And for those of you who are caregivers, pay attention to those little changes in behavior and habit.
Exactly.
Because that can be really helpful in spotting potential problems early.
It really can.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us on another deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.